and welcome. I'm Ijoma Kunyato. Tonight, President Muhammadu Buhari, worried over delay in concluding corruption cases, accuses Judiciary of being culpable. Nigeria and South Africa seek ways of improving ties on security matters as South African government considers return of funds from Nigeria's 2015 arms deal. The United States advises Nigeria to commit more funds to agriculture to reduce poverty and build greater capacity. And Morocco formally announces its intention to rejoin the African Union 32 years after leaving. On Business News tonight, Nigeria's inflation hit 16.5% in June, its highest point since 2005.
And in sports news, Nigeria Football Federation appoints French tactician Paul Le Guen as Super Eagles technical advisor.
We begin tonight in the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja, where the President today reiterated his resolve to end cases of corruption in the country. Now, he also frowned on the delay in prosecuting corruption cases currently before various courts. President Muhammadu Buhari, who was speaking on the role of judges in the fight against corruption at a summit in Abuja, said the trend is sending a negative message that corruption pays. Our correspondent Amaka Okafor reports.
It's a gathering of Nigerian judges. The event is an anti-corruption summit aimed at bringing to the fore the role of the judges in the anti-corruption war of the Buhari administration. To set the ball rolling, President Muhammadu Buhari expressed concern over the delay of cases before the various courts.
So far, the corruption cases filed by government are not progressing as speedily as they should, in spite of the Administration of Criminal Justice Act of 2015, essentially because the courts allow some lawyers to frustrate the reforms introduced by law. This certainly needs to change if we have to make success of our collective efforts in the fight against corruption.
On his part, the Chief Justice of the Federation, who says the judiciary is aware of its enormous responsibility, however says the job of a winning anti-corruption war does not rest with the judiciary alone.
I must caution us all that the judiciary cannot act on its own without support of all stakeholders in the justice sector. The prosecution, defense, police and other parties that play their respective roles in ensuring that they obey all directions of the court and act timelessly in the interest of justice.
The guest speaker, former president of the Commonwealth Magistrates and Judges Association, says judicial and political corruption are mutually enforcing in any society. It is therefore important that all arms of government play their role in ensuring that the country does not suffer because of corruption.
There must be measures in place to minimize political influence in the selection and appointment of judges, their tenure and conditions of work, including the prospects of promotion and the power to discipline or remove judges from office.
The summit is meant to bring to fore the role of the judges and indeed the judiciary in ensuring the success of the fight against corruption. But the consensus here is that the three arms of government and indeed the citizenry must all be on deck to ensure its success. Amaka Okafor, Channels Television News.
Nigeria is seeking the support of South Africa for the establishment of a defense complex for the production of arms. This came to the fore today at a forum in Abuja, where the Permanent Secretary in Nigeria's Ministry of Defense and his South African counterpart spoke of efforts towards confidence building on security matters.
Top military officers from Nigeria and South Africa as they discuss how to improve security and ensure relative peace and stability through intelligence gathering, arms procurement and technical expertise. With an upsurge in the activities of terrorists, officials here believe that the time to act is now. This, they say, will be achieved with a strong collaboration by both countries. But first, a refund of Nigeria's arms deal fund will be done by South Africa to ensure that the miscreants are wiped off.
In terms of the episode that you are relating to, it's an isolated, separate episode that has got regulatory framework, and my partner and I, my counterparty and I, are going to be looking into various regulatory frameworks so that those things don't happen again. But I'm sure by now it has been resolved.
Nigeria reaffirmed its commitment to secure the lives of its people. The Permanent Secretary at the Ministry of Defense explains that efforts are on the way to establish a military complex that will be responsible for the production of arms and armored vehicles locally.
Ultimately, the aim there is to see how our defense industry would contribute to the economic enhancement of the country in terms of job creation, in terms of industrialization. These are the kind of things that we think the industrial military complex will bring on board when established. Fortunately, we do, after the president has given us the go-ahead, we do have some funds in the 2016 budget to begin the process.
The provision of adequate security is key to the achievement of socio-economic development. Experts here believe that no nation is an island on issues of security, but that consistent support from sister nation is critical, especially in times like this.
Are you done?
Well, let's take another look at the issue of delay in corruption cases. And joining me now from Abuja is the co-founder of the Convention on Business Integrity, Mr. Soji Apampa. Thank you so much for joining us on the News at 10. Thank you. There's been a lot of frustration, shall I say, over the delay in the anti-corruption fight, particularly the delay in some of the court cases. And now you see the presidency coming out and being unhappy about it as well. Do you think the judiciary is to blame?
Well, I think the role of the judiciary is just one of several root causes of the problem. Because in the time of Mr. Ribadu, the allegation was made then as well that the judiciary was hampering progress. In the days of Mrs. Waziri, she made the same complaint. Same thing for all of the successive people who have been chair of the EFCC. So I think that if we're still complaining about the same problem, it should say to us that we have not addressed the root causes yet.
What would you say the root causes are? What should we be addressing?
Well, I understand that the president, in his speech, also mentioned that in spite of the new Administration of Criminal Justice Act, that things were still being stalled. Well, that is only one item. What about the socialization of the actors, the socialization of the lawyers, the socialization of the judges? The fact that people are still able, we're trying to prosecute and deal and sanction those who have done wrong. We have not done enough to stop more people from doing wrong. So until we fix the systems themselves, if we have a group of lawyers, a body of lawyers that can spit out the ones that are bad, or if we have a system for judges that can spit out the ones that are bad, that's the only time that we can deal with this issue once and for all. Otherwise, we will keep dealing with the symptoms.
Well,
and then finally, there's the whole context. There's the fact that people don't really understand the whole corruption argument. Why do they want us to say no to corruption when that seems to be the only way to get ahead? Not enough has been done to tell us what we should be voting for, what we should be saying yes to if we're saying no to corruption. And I think a lot more work needs to be done in that area also for the public to tolerate less of it.
But when you look at it from the point of view of a defense lawyer, he's defending his case, and they all often say the law must take its course, and somebody has to be proven guilty. It's a process. So what do you say to people like that who say, look, I'm defending my clients and I'm doing it the best way I know how?
Well, I think in and of itself, so long as the rules permit what is being done by the lawyers and what's being done by the judges, then you can't really hold them responsible for the way they're behaving. But if they're behaving contrary to the rules, then they should be disciplined. They should be disciplined by their own to start with. So the lawyers should have a way of disciplining their members who contravene the rules, and so also for the judiciary. But if this isn't there, or it isn't working adequately, and it has been the case from at least 1999 up till now, then it tells us that we're still not addressing the main issues. I think we should be calling on the Presidential Advisory Committee on Anti-Corruption and all the anti-corruption bodies to spend a bit more time doing some more analysis. What they are working on is very important, it's very necessary, but I doubt that in and of itself it is sufficient to make the change.
What about from the point of view of returning funds? Let's look at that aspect. In a situation where a person who is accused returns funds or offers to do so, does that end the prosecution? Where do you stand on that? Because some people say, okay, the funds have been returned and that's what we're looking for. Should prosecution continue, even in spite of that?
Certainly. I think that if we recovered funds and we did not punish the corrupt, then we have done a great disservice, because it means that if you manage to steal and steal big, and if you're very good at negotiating your way out of it, that you can get away with it. That's how some people got away with a slap on the wrist during Mrs. Waziri's time. And from the principle of double jeopardy, I doubt that they can ever be tried again for the same offense. So I think that even if we're collecting some money, the first thing we need to do is to have a level of transparency around what we're collecting. Because I can promise you, some of these people will turn around tomorrow and point the finger at the government and claim that they actually gave back a lot more than the government has declared. And that would be even more damaging. They say tardiness in catching the thief can actually turn around and catch the owner. So we need to be very careful in these kind of negotiations. But having said that, I do understand the need for the government to try to recover as much as possible, but it should never be at the expense of sending the right signals to the rest of society.
Co-founder, Convention on Business Integrity, Mr. Soji Apampa. Thanks for sharing your thoughts with us on the News at 10 tonight. The Speaker of the House of Representatives, Yakubu Dogara, has called for the restructuring of the nation's petroleum sector. At a two-day stakeholders technical roundtable on the petroleum industry in Abuja, Honorable Dogara criticized the poor management of the sector and described the laws governing the industry as outdated. The Speaker asked the executive to urgently send a bill on proposed reforms to the National Assembly.
Pipeline vandalism, large-scale environmental degradation, and the world's highest level of crude oil theft have been constant for several years. Decades after the advent of Nigeria's petroleum industry, problems which led to host community agitations still remain unaddressed and highly politicized. These examples represent just a few of the present problems of Nigeria's petroleum industry and are reflective of an industry that is in critical need of total restructuring, which can only be commenced through the enactment of laws that provide a legal framework that will promote the emergence of an optimal petroleum industry.
In part 2, after the break, the 2016 AIDS conference kicks off in Durban, South Africa, with world leaders calling for more donor support. That's in a moment. Do stay with us.